Hualien City Medical Center and City donate pandemic prevention supplies to first aid responders. A Malaysian former COVID-19 patient shares his experience of fighting against the virus. Welcome to the Headlines. I'm Siri Su. Thank you for joining us. In Taiwan, as the pandemic situation worsens, police officers and firefighters have a higher chance of contacting COVID-19 patients. To ensure they can stay safe while carrying out their missions, Hualien City Medical Center and City Foundation have donated separation shields, face shields, and gloves to them. They express their gratitude for慈济. Let's take a look. Upon receiving emergency calls, the ambulance takes off. Hualien City Hospital has designed separation shields for first aid responders, so they can stay safe despite having to contact patients with contagious diseases.
To protect all the first aid responders, we came up with the separation shield, which can provide protection as the medical professionals and firefighters come into contact with the patients.
Every time they go on a mission, first aid responders must wear protective gear, which makes them sweat. Therefore, separation shield has used light and decomposable materials. It is easy to use and cheap. It prevents droplets from flying into the ambulance, and it does not affect the first aid responders who have to conduct CPR procedure.
The separation shield can separate the first aid responders and patients. If they come into contact with patients' droplets during the process of treating them, then our first aid responders or rescue team will be paralyzed.
Protecting the health of police officers and firefighters means protecting the public. City Foundation has also donated face shields and PVC gloves to police officers.
It is permeable and the protection area is large. Compared to normal goggles, this face shield serves better function. Besides the hard work of our colleagues, as people give us resources and encouragement, we have felt them in our hearts.
As people protect police officers and firefighters, they're also preventing the further spread of the pandemic. In Taiwan, as the pandemic situation has become severe, medical professionals are working hard, and chemical soldiers also help disinfect different places. Many children who are staying at home have expressed their gratitude for frontline workers through the internet. The medical professionals also promise they'll guard their posts and protect the people. Here's our report. As the pandemic situation is severe, the public has seen chemical soldiers disinfecting places, wearing heavy gear. Children are expressing their gratitude online.
谢谢国军哥哥，现在天气非常热，你们要多补充水分哦，辛苦你们，加油哦！
军中的大哥哥、大姐姐，你们辛苦了，我们会戴好口罩哦，会做好防疫，不生病，不让你们辛苦。
The medical professionals have also promised to guard their posts through the internet.
We will do our best to protect the hospital and the people.
我也很坚守我的岗位，好好的上班。
谢谢叔叔阿姨，
护士阿姨辛苦了，谢谢你照顾新冠病毒的人。
护士阿姨，你们辛苦了。
As the frontline workers carry out their missions to prevent the spread of the pandemic, members of the public have expressed their gratitude online. COVID-19 has been impacting many people's lives. Actually, for the past year, the pandemic hotspots have started from Asia, Europe, North America to South America and Africa. However, recently it returned to Asian countries. While many countries develop vaccines, many more look to test the possibility of COVID-19 within a short period of time. In this series today, we'll guide you through different terminologies which are commonly presented on the media. Let's take a look. COVID prevention staff members will firstly perform nasopharyngeal swab on a person, then collect secretion from one's nose or throat. The collected samples are then placed into tubes. This is the first step before the process of PCR-based testing.
疫情发烧
As the pandemic worsened, specimens sent in for PCR-based testing increased. These specimens are mainly from patients in hospitals and from suspected individuals listed by the Department of Health.
In the sample, there could be COVID-19. The size is so small that it is 1/10 of the size of an influenza virus. Using our hair as an example, the diameter of one hair can fit 4,000 COVID-19 viruses. Due to this, PCR-based testing is used to detect COVID-19.
Through the process of PCR-based testing, due to the hereditary substance from the virus, we may duplicate and create lots of accurate results like this.
PCR is short for polymerase chain reaction. During the process, the genetic sequence is detected first, then the sequence is marked. After several processes of duplication, the process ends when the sample size is large enough for the device to detect COVID-19.
We add colors into the virus's nucleic acid, and when the colored nucleic acid reaches to a certain degree, it will be within our detection range. So at this time, we will decide if the specimen is positive for COVID-19. We are at the Taichung Tzuchi's Hospital's Department of Laboratory Medicine. The entire department hosts 20 members, as there are 3 shifts. The lab works 24 hours and dedicates time into PCR-based testing. As of now, the lab can produce 250 to 300 PCR results.
During the process of PCR-based testing, the times when viruses are duplicated is also known as the cycle threshold.
Under the cycle threshold value, I should say that this case has a lot of virus within the body. And he is a high-risk individual since he could transfer the virus to others. Within the country, patients who have a cycle threshold of 30 or more may go out of quarantine. For example, if the cycle threshold value is 30, it's the size of this paper here. If the cycle threshold reduces to 29, the virus duplicates, and once it hits a value of 24, though it is 6 away from the cycle threshold of 30, the amount of virus duplicated during the process is up to 100 times.
No matter the number on the cycle threshold, if the device shows the result of positive of COVID-19, that means the individual has contracted the virus before.
When the pandemic first started, the PCR value must turn negative in order for one to go out of quarantine. But recently I thought, due to the decreasing amount of medical beds, the CECC should consider the cycle threshold value of 30 or above. In this range of values, people can go out of quarantine.
Before the pandemic breaks out once more within Taiwan, any patient who tested positive must be hospitalized and treated. Recently, medical supplies are in short supply, as the CECC commended that patients under the cycle threshold of 30 must stay at home. Immediate reports show that some individuals are tested negative in Taiwan, yet tested positive in other countries. Why does this happen?
If the sampling process isn't done right, actually the virus will remain in the body, and there are limits to each test. There's no test which has accurate results of 100%, so we must collect specimens through multiple tries. So for someone who contracted COVID-19, the medical staff might have to collect samples 1, 2, or 3 times, and on the 4th time the person is tested positive for COVID-19.
PCR-based tests have a period of time where the patients still have a possibility of contracting COVID-19. Therefore, besides avoiding going to crowds, the best way to avoid contracting the virus is to wear masks and constantly wash hands. In Malaysia, a former COVID-19 patient has shared his experience fighting the virus. He has contracted the virus after joining a dinner gathering. He does not have bad habits or 3 highs. However, when his condition worsened, he had to be intubated. He advised people not to underestimate the virus. He also hopes people who have contacted patients will truly quarantine themselves. Here's our report.
In fact, I follow pandemic prevention SOP, and I seldom join dinner gatherings. I joined once and contracted the virus. I went to a dinner gathering. One of my friends there has contacted a COVID patient. He did not tell us back then. Later, he told us that he has contracted the virus. So I went through a screening test. The result was negative. By Monday, my bones felt sore and I started to have a fever. Then I went to do a PCR test and the result was positive.
然后我又再去做多一次 PCR test positive 的，就是第一天到第一天是没有任何的那些症状。
From the first to the sixth day, I did not have much symptoms. I simply coughed and had a fever. However, by 2 a.m. on the seventh day, I started having difficulties breathing. So they sent me to the temporary hospital. The nurse and doctors there tried to save me. After half an hour, they sent me to ICU.
送进去 ICU。当我要插管这之前，医生他就给我视频。当我看到我的老婆跟小孩的时候，其实那时候眼泪一直。
Before I underwent intubation, the doctor let me Skype my family. When I saw my wife and children, I kept crying. My wife could not talk. My biggest son said 2 sentences to me, "Dad, are you recovering? When will you be discharged from the hospital?" Then I asked myself, do I want my 2 children to grow up without the father's companionship? I must battle against the virus no matter what. I must wake up.
不管什么情况，我都一定要醒来。第二天的时候，我的发炎指数还很高。第三天
By the second day, my inflammation index was still very high. On the third day, my conditions have stabilized and my inflammation index started to decrease. On the fourth day, the doctor took out the intubation. My lungs have been damaged and the fibrosis level is about 27%. They help train my lungs. Gradually, my vital capacity has increased. I do not smoke or drink. I do not have 3 highs.
肺活量给提高起来，我也不抽烟，我也不喝酒。
But my conditions were still serious. I hope young people must learn to protect themselves and the elderly people at home.
其实你们的要保护的自己跟家里的那些。
I hope people won't be selfish. If you contracted the virus or have contacted a patient, please quarantine yourself.
In Malaysia, Tzuchi's footsteps to bring assistance and care never stop. Facing the third wave of COVID-19, Tzuchi Kuala Lumpur Selangor chapter has helped hospitals in need. They donated medical supplies to local hospitals. The medical professionals have expressed their gratitude for Tzuchi's donations. Let's take a look at how Tzuchi volunteers reach out to different hospitals. Facing the pandemic, Malaysia's medical team is up against more challenges as Tzuchi Selangor and Kuala Lumpur chapter initiated its third wave of aid.
OK， 总之先买给他就可以了，是吧？
对。现在采购方面是On the issue of purchasing supplies, it's a bit challenging. Firstly, because N95 masks are hard to find, and the ventilators are also hard to find. It's not a profession. It's hard because in the past, ventilators were not used at all.
之前在马来西亚的情况都没有需要到呼吸机。
Within a few days, volunteers prepared supplies and arranged distribution at the hospital.
记者目前所在地是双溪毛诺医院。那这一趟的物资援助，除了有80张的病床，还有14000个 N95 口罩，以及1万个面罩。那当中也包括这20台的高流量氧气鼻导管，以及这6台在 ICU 使用的呼吸机。
基人道立场，实际在马上实践。
Based on humanitarian values, Tzuchi immediately contacted local vendors. In order to save lives, we discussed with different teams. Then after reaching a consensus, we purchased supplies for the hospital.
公司就这个采购能够提供给这个院方。
I mean, this is really a contribution that really will help us lah. With this, we will get better and more assistance for our staff. I must say, I'm very thankful to Tzuchi, all members in Tzuchi for coming together to help us, in these trying times.
Under the pandemic, let us hope that gathering of kindness may protect people from the virus. While Tzuchi is a Buddhist organization, its volunteers include people of different religious beliefs. For instance, Ermelinda is a Catholic Tzuchi volunteer in the Philippines. When it flooded, she thought of saving her volunteer uniform. Then a doctor in Malaysia has joined Tzuchi after watching Tzuchi volunteers helping out at a mosque. Meanwhile, in Turkey, city volunteer Faisal Hu is a devoted Muslim. He has helped countless Syrian refugees. These volunteers have proven their love transcends religious boundaries. Let's take a look. Worshipping at the mosque, the worshippers have transcended boundaries to connect with other people.
I'm Faisal Hu. I'm Muslim and I'm also a Tzu Chi volunteer.
很多人大概都知道，湖光中见到上人的时候都是这样子，并没有合十。
Many people know this. When Faisal Hu meets Dharma Master Zhen Yan, I do not put my palms together. Why? Because I feel that I'm acting as a bridge. I hope that Muslims can understand Tzu Chi and Tzu Chi can learn about Muslims. After conducting different religious rituals, everyone works together to do the same thing. They take actions to love people. This is a beautiful picture.
In 1999, when a massive earthquake struck Turkey, Turkey-Taiwanese businessman Faisal Hu came into contact with Tzu Chi. He saw Tzu Chi volunteers take off the word Buddhist on the tents they built for affected residents. When they build great love houses, they've also placed a mosque in the middle.
上人就跟我讲，他说他年轻的时候在哪里？在台东。
The master has told me that when she was young, she stayed in Luye, Taidong. Every day, as she went to pick up wood pieces on the mountain, she would pass by a church. She would bow deeply. She said that many people have built up dividers in their heart that separate people. What is that? Ethnicities, language, religious beliefs, nationality, and skin color. She said that we should let go of those differences and remember one word only. That word is love.
Whether it is the faith or actions described in Quran or the vow and actions in Buddhist sutras, they can be described by love. In 2019, a Syrian teacher, Professor Zuma, has joined the ranks of Tzu Chi volunteers in Turkey.
In September 2012, I came to Turkey from Syria. I graduated from the oldest school in Syria, Damascus University, majoring in Arabic literature. I've also worked in an Islamic organization in Libya. After the Syrian civil war broke out, many families were torn apart. It is like separating a person's head and hands from his body. Allah seemed to have heard my prayer, and I was able to reunite with my family. I finally found peace of mind.
إنشاء هذه المدرسة وفي تأسيس هذا الصرح العلمي التربوي العالمي.
Tzu Chi has established Almena Hills School for Syrian children, so that children become the moon and stars in the sky. I am grateful to Allah. Currently, 4,181 children study and learn here.
وتربوا في هذه المدرسة بلغ عددهم 5,429. نعم عندما ترعى هذه المدرسة حوالي 5,000.
In Tzu Chi, you can see Christians, Muslims, Buddhists, and believers of other religions. May Allah be with Dharma Master Zhen Yan. Through the words and actions of the Master, she points the people's direction of life.
مصنع وهي ليست مدرسة.
Another volunteer who has followed the direction of love is this doctor in Malaysia.
We went to Temerloh to assist the big post-flood assistance to the local people, you know. And there, in the surau, a small mosque, we found this group of volunteers in dark blue T-shirts and white pants, you know, were cleaning the surau. So this sort of triggers a curiosity in me, and we find out later that they are from our local NGO Serchi. Being a Muslim, one of the common questions posed to me is, Zali, don't you feel different when you assist Serchi, which is actually a Buddha-based NGO? I say, no. I always talk about those beautiful similarities that Serchi have, that Buddha have, which is similar to Islam. Most people will talk about the two differences. I feel this is very, very unfair. So we always talk, because when we talk about the two differences, we will not go anywhere. We will fight among each other. But we talk about our similarities, then there is a big room to move forward, to improve human, to improve the people, to help others, and to make this world a better place to live in.
I'm Ermelinda, and I'm a Catholic. I'm also a慈济volunteer. Many people called us a Blue Angels.
Sir, ang tawag po sa amin, Blue Angel. Una po, nung panahon po nung Ondoy,
I got to know Tzu Chi because of Typhoon Castana. Tzu Chi has initiated work for relief program at my hometown, Marikina. After helping us clean up our homes, they also held gatherings. That is how I started to volunteer.
Sila ng seminar, in-invite po kami. Yun na pong umpisa, tinuloy-tuloy ko na po. Chinik ko, sabi ko, tingnan ko yung mga uniform ko.
When it rained heavily, I would place my volunteer uniform at the highest place in the house. So when Tzu Chi mobilized volunteers, I can be ready.
Magpatawag anytime. Magpatawag yung chuchi.
When disaster struck, Ermelinda's first thought is to save her Tzu Chi uniform.
Nung una, yung kontra sila.
In fact, in the beginning, when my family learned that I've joined a Chinese Buddhist organization, they could not believe it. However, later my family felt how Tzu Chi respects different religions. I've seen Tzu Chi as my second home. I can promise you and say that the Catholic precepts are similar to Tzu Chi's 10 precepts.
Great love transcends boundaries and compassion knows no enemies. We love people who are not related to us, feel compassion for all living beings. So when he said that love transcends religions and ethnicities, you must take actions. Why are we able to help 122 countries today? That is because we are able to enter their hearts. When you belittle yourself, you have become part of him.
In Canada, Tzu Chi North Toronto Liaison Office has provided food supplies to the food bank. They hope to help people who are facing food shortage. We'll leave you with these images. Thank you for joining us. Goodbye.